It's time for the best chapter title ever in Anomaly and in the world. It's part 2, chapter 14, where Zack Miller, that's me, is narrating and reciting and going through the entire Anomaly book. How to finally stand out from the crowd, chapter by chapter by chapter, for your enjoyment, for your delightment. Is that a word? I don't know. For your every emotions necessary. This, my friends, and people that could be friends and people who aren't friends, but maybe I want to be friends, this is my favorite chapter title. And I think this is a chapter that many of you need to listen and start implementing yourself, because I think that if you started doing this, you would see a ton more opportunities come your way. But because you're afraid to do this, you don't. What do I think you should do? Copy it. The chapter title, Chapter 14, Promoting Yourself is Not Being Cocky. It's a wonderful feeling when a brand receives a boost in exposure. If you can be featured in a publication or interviewed on a popular podcast like Zack Miller Says, check it out at Zack Miller Says everywhere on the internet, you're getting in front of new groups of people. We'll talk more about that later in the book about how to make this happen. The results give you more website traffic, added subscriptions to your email list, more phone calls, and more sales. Whew. There's a period right after you get featured when people start noticing you. It's exciting. You're finally getting the attention you deserve and worked hard for. Then a few days go by and people move on to something else. What can you do once the honeymoon phase of exposure wears off? It happens fast, like Fast and the Furious fast. There are ways you can keep that excitement alive over the following weeks, months, and years to leverage those past opportunities. Once you have exposure, you want it to be seen more than once and shared repeatedly. This is where most brands mess up. Yes, they mess up. They don't do this. They get the recognition, but never leverage it. They never capitalize on it. They never promote it after the fact, and it sits in the pit of misery, never to be seen again. The pit of misery. Not a place I want to be. Let's say you receive an article written about you, or videoed, produced, whatever. Some sort of content was produced about you in a popular magazine. Well, in this case, it would be written. Here I am trying to go off script and I look like a donkey. That popular magazine boasts 250,000 monthly readers. That's 250,000 monthly readers. Great math there, Zach. Of which a large portion see your story. This is wonderful. Give ourselves a woo-hoo-hoo. But then wait. Or then what? The magazine doesn't promote your story the following month since they need to get eyeballs on their new content. And that makes sense because they need to sell more stories. So you must take control and market this story yourself. Wait for them and it may never happen again. All too often, amazing stories are produced and the producer of the content promotes the story once and then is never marketed again. I mean, think about that, right? So let's say you had an article or something produced about you in January. It was marketed in January, and it hasn't been talked about since by that actual company. That is because you need to be in the driver's seat, and you need to start pushing it out. Because they're trying to sell all their stuff, and they don't care about your article anymore. It's unfortunate, but it's true. As you grow your brand, the goal is that your network is growing with it. Imagine gaining 100 new followers a month. At the end of the year, you would have 1,200 new followers. If you promoted that content in January and only in January, 1,100 new followers would miss out. Do you get why recycling your content is important now? ? I'm Ron Burgundy. Since it takes 6 times for someone to be seen for the first time anyway, get it out of your head that everyone who is following you always sees what you're producing. Becoming an anomaly means you're seen a lot. So much so that your brand is recognizable and you begin to hear people say, "We see you everywhere. How exactly do you do it?" We have 24 hours in a day, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. And what you do with it sets you apart. Anomalies don't waste time or complain. They are focus-driven and maximizing their time. Instead of having a series of one-on-one meetings where you only get your message out to the person or small group, think about taking that exact same content and create it using a medium in which you can share it with everyone, like a video or podcast. Besides reaching numerous people at once, if those people feel you have provided them value, then they will now have an easy way to share that content. A 1,000 subscriber email list that has an open rate of 25% is missing 75% of its subscribers. You must continue to promote and leverage your wins no matter how old they are. The content inside of them may no longer be relevant, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is leveraging your brand, leveraging the platform of that popular magazine by saying featured in popular magazine in your messaging. This is what sports teams do. They promote when they won, not when they lost. When was the last time you heard the Tampa Bay Buccaneers talk about the year they lost the Super Bowl? Sorry, let me restate that. When was the last time you heard the Tampa Bay Buccaneers talk about the year they lost almost every game? You don't. You hear them promote when they won the Super Bowl. Even if it was decades ago, it shows that they're champions. What big wins do you already have? What brands have already mentioned you? Or what companies have you worked with that are recognizable? Create a list of these moments and continue to leverage them and promote that you're associated with them. It's funny, actually, that I mentioned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers since Tom Brady is now on the Buccaneers. How that's funny. 2 years ago when I wrote this, that's the team that I chose. Will the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the Super Bowl this year and be the first home team ever to play at their home stadium in a Super Bowl? Or will Tom Brady need Bill Belichick? And anyway, off tangent, off topic. To be an anomaly, learn to get comfortable praising your accolades. It's a tough pill to swallow. I get it, really. This is like one of the toughest things for people to do. But there's always ways to promote yourself without being cocky or blatantly promoting how awesome you are. If you're unwilling to share your wins with the world, it's a tough road to becoming an anomaly. You have a series of events, accomplishment, and milestone moments in your life that have made you proud. These moments make you unique and special and are usually tied up to an experience or big brand that the world knows. Let's say you have been coaching football as an assistant coach for 26 years. That hard work finally pays off and you become the head coach. Now, which sounds better on your resume? 1 year of head coaching experience or 26 years of coaching experience? Obviously, that year of head coaching experience means a lot. However, having over 2 decades of experience sounds a lot better. Additionally, if you have worked under anyone that has some clout, use their name as much as possible. Maybe you were coached under a Hall of Fame Washington Redskins coach, Joe Gibbs. You can leverage the team's name and brand. Putting this all together, you have a 26-year coaching career and come from the Joe Gibbs coaching pedigree, which has 3 Super Bowl wins. Now you see how positioning your credibility into one that shows where you were groomed makes you look a heck of a lot more capable than a first-year head coach. Right? Maybe you have spent the last decade jumping from one job to another and you're afraid that you will make your commitment to a new company questionable. There are ways to position yourself to make you look like a seasoned veteran rather than someone with a short attention span. Leverage your school, especially if you have a big name or have a big alumni. West Virginia University, whoop whoop. You graduated from an educational juggernaut which led you to decades worth of work with some of the top brands in hotel management like Hilton, Best Western, and MGM. Note, never ever lie on your resume because this is just setting yourself up for failure. We don't want that. In addition to your resume, look at the companies you have worked for. What big wins did they have that you have direct ties to? If you were in a department that won a credible award, don't you want to flaunt and share its worth? Not everything ties directly to your past, and that's A-okay. But if you have accolades showing how amazing you are, then you need to tell the world. Let's say there's a female soccer player from the University of Southern California that was on the 2016 National Championship winning team, but is now a doctor at Cleveland Clinic. They beat West Virginia that year, by the way. Good game, USC. But should have gone to the Mountaineers. Even though the championship win is long over, it would be foolish for her not to use that to her advantage in promoting herself from a business standpoint. She's an anomaly because she was part of something that very few are, a championship. Even though she's now in a totally different field, she will always be a champion. Take a step back and look at your life as an outsider. Tell your story. It's a good one. Lewis Howes. This is a case study, a little thingamabob. I got to figure out how I'm going to say this. I don't think case study is the right word. It's not fun enough. Lewis Howes, a popular podcaster, leveraged his professional career in football as a stepping stone when he started in business. While his career was cut short to a freak accident, he knew that he had unique life experience that would set him apart. Instead of forgetting his past, he used it to get in front of people whom with whom he wanted to be associated. A few years later, Howes is a best-selling author surrounded by some of the best businesses and brands in the world. He took his unique situation and turned it into an anomaly of a career. In addition to being a professional athlete, Howes can also promote himself as a best-selling author and popular podcaster with his podcast, The School of Greatness. It's all about credibility. When someone first meets a person, it's human nature to question them and why they should trust that person or care what they have to say. Your goal is to position yourself as someone who has credibility by leveraging your accolades, milestones, and endorsements. You do that and people will listen. You'll become an anomaly. Once you overcome the fear of bringing yourself into the spotlight, it's time to do it over and over again. It's helpful to have a content calendar to keep your post organized, so don't overshare one piece of content or neglect another. A calendar can keep you on track, and you can use a scheduler to automate your sharing. Roadmap. What big wins and milestones have you achieved over your lifespan? Number 2, what brands have you worked with? Number 3, what do you want people to think you do, or how can you help them? What keywords or phrases are associated with these? For example, I wanted to share with you my kind of about Zack Miller and why I think it's valuable to this chapter. So this chapter obviously was the one where we talked about, like, let's hear what you've done in your life. And I get that not everyone loves to share these things. Also, I think there's a time where you're sharing too much. There's a lot of people out there that will, when introduced by someone, it'll be like 17,000 pages of their autobiography, their bios, whatever. And it's too much. So I think 3 or 4 major things that are tied to major brands that can help you let someone be like, okay, I'm here. Now this person is credible, and call it a day. The things that I used, that I talked about just from this past chapter, that I used to show my credibility for Anomaly were this. So I'll just read my full bio from this. I've changed it now, but this is what I had then. Zack started his first business at the age of 10. Okay, so that's saying that he has done something for a long period of time, likely because he's not 10 years old. Okay, then I say, since then he's spent decades helping other people successfully start, grow, and dominate their business through his company Hatch. Okay, so he's done this. And then he's used the skills detailed in this book. Ooh, so if I read this book, I'm about to be able to do these things. Detail in this book, Anomaly, to land an interview with Damon John, host a TV show on ABC, talk business at the White House, and get featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, and raise money from the team that started the Weather Channel. And you can check him out on his podcast at Zack Miller Says. Okay, so he has a podcast, right? So I have a podcast at Zack Miller Says. That means I at least have that, right? But then there are some major brands in there that I talked about. Damon John of FUBU and Shark Tank. Okay, very notable name. The White House, a big brand there. Entrepreneur Magazine, very big brand there. And ABC, right? So that showed that I knew what I was talking about in this stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. So if you have big wins, share them with the world so that they can see you. What are some of the wins or milestones that you have accomplished in your life that you never share with the world? Those are the things that you need to start telling the world about so they can look at you and be like, whoa, this person is credible and I need to talk to them. That's it for that chapter. Moving on to the next one. Here we go.